All right, let's get over to your vote. Thank you and good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Clayton County Public Schools Millage Public Hearing. The time is 11 o'clock a.m. and I'm calling this hearing to order. Today we'll hear a presentation from our finance team regarding the millage rate, and then we'll open up the floor for public participation. This is the first of 3 required hearings. The next one will be this evening at 6. This evening at 6, and the next one will be the following Monday at 11 a.m. All right, so thank you for coming, and I'm now going to hand the mic over to the finance department, and they'll begin their presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, Superintendent Dr. Smith, colleagues, and community. As the board chair stated, this is the first of 3 required public hearings on the millage rate. So I have a brief presentation, and then we'll allow time for public comments. So during this hearing, we're going to review the basics of the millage rate, review the board's role in setting the millage rate. You have it on the big screen there too. Talk about the digest history, the impact of the millage rate on our FY26 investment in our scholars, and then allow community input. So what is a millage rate? That's the tax rate that is applied to the assessed value of the property. You take that millage rate and multiply it by the assessed value to determine the amount of taxes owed. It's stated as dollars per thousand, where 1 mil equals $1 in tax for every $1,000 of assessed value. So if a millage rate is set at 19.6 mils, that means $19.60 in taxes for every $1,000 of assessed value. Then each year, the governing authority, whether it's the county, city, or the school district, they establish that rate and it's published in the tax digest. The math, how you calculate your property taxes, again, if you set the 19.6 mils, the fair market value in the system is $250,000. You're only assessed at 40% of that fair market value. So you don't pay taxes on the full $250,000, only 40% of that, which is $100,000. Then if it's your primary property, you get the $10,000 homestead exemptions, which reduces it even further to $90,000. So we take that $90,000, you divide it by 1,000, because remember, the 1 mil is $1 for every $1,000 in valuation. So we divide that by 1,000 and multiply that times the millage rate of 19.6. In the home with a fair market value of $250,000 will pay $1,764 in property taxes. And that's at 19.6 mils. Each year, the annual reassessment of your property is required by state law. This is done by the county tax assessor. The county tax assessor does it, not the school districts, not the county itself, not the county commissioners themselves, nor the city council. The county tax assessor sets those values. It reflects the current fair market value of your property as what it will sell for in today's market. Your assessments can increase or decrease due to rising or falling real estate market prices, new construction or improvements in the area where your home is, or any state mandated reassessment schedules. The state mandates that you reassess values every so often if you're not doing it every year. You can have a growth or decline of the property tax digest, and that has a significant impact on the government's budget. The taxpayer's liability can change due to adjustments in the assessed value, the millage rate, or both. In our case, it's changing because of the increase in assessed values, because we're proposing to be the millage rate at 19.6 mils, which is what it has been for the last 2 years, when the board reduced it to 20 mils a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2023. This example that I have here shows the impact of the digest valuation where the millage rate remains the same. So I went online and looked up a home value in 2019. That home was at $219,877. That was the fair market value. Had the millage rate been 19.6 mils, this homeowner would have paid $1,500.28 in property taxes. So every time I looked at just every 2 years, I didn't want to do the whole, I just want to do a small example. So you can see in 2021, the values went up, but the millage rate remained the same, the taxes increased because that value went up. Same for 2023, and then 2025, that same home is valued at $370,400. At the same millage rate, their taxes is $2,708. So you can see how as there has been an incremental increase in the values of the property, even though the millage rate remains the same, that's considered a tax increase, and we have to advertise it as such, which is why we have to have these hearings. So the board has a role in setting the millage rate. It's required by law for them to levy an ad valorem tax, which is the property tax, to maintain the public school system for the county. This revenue is allocated to provide operations for the student learning. This picture here shows the value of 1 mil since 2016. As you can see, it has gone up, but we have one of the lowest values, as I'll show you later on in the presentation. So for this fiscal year, we're proposing a 19.6. Years. As you can see when you look at this, there's been a 7% average change in our digest over the past 14 years. We have experienced growth and declines, as you can see in the last column that shows the net digest change. In some years you can see it went down, some years it's gone up. This year it only increased by 1%. Previous years, last year we went up by 10%, 18%, 10% prior to that 9%. So we've had an average of 7% over the last 14 years. And again, these values are assessed by the county's tax assessor's office. Also on exemptions, as I stated earlier, if you're in your home, you qualify for an exemption. If you're 65 or older, you qualify for full exemption from school taxes. So exemptions reduce the amount of taxes that you pay as a homeowner, but it also reduces the amount of revenue that the local governments receive. And looking at this slide, the value of the exemption has grown from 2013 to now by 134%. That's how much the exemptions have increased from 2013 to this year. However, our overall digest growth has only been 120%. So our exemptions have outpaced the growth in our digest. And to where now exemptions exceed $2.6 billion. So of the $120-something billion that values that we have, $2.6 billion of that is exempt from taxes based on your exemptions that you may have that you can get by the tax commissioner's office. So the tax commissioner will give you the exemptions if you apply for them. They'll let you know what you qualify for if you contact them. This shows the comparison I was speaking earlier on where we fall in the top 10 districts in the state. We're number 6 out of the top 10 districts in the state. However, we're at the bottom where we're number 10. When you look at the net M&O digest assessed values of $12 billion, that's lower than the other 9 top largest districts in the state. If you look at our total M&O level, that's the amount of property taxes that we would collect, we're still at the bottom because our property values are lower than all the other ones. And we have more students than 4 of the lowest that are below us. We have more students, but we have the lowest value of those as well. And this is information that you can find online. This FTE data was on the Georgia Department of Education's website. It's the FTE data from October of last fall when we had our count. And then the Georgia Department of Revenue, you can get the digest data for any entity, whether it's a city, county, school district. So that's where this information came from. So our property taxes, when you pay property taxes, that's considered that as a local investment in learning for our students in our community. So one of the questions is, if the millage rate is remaining the same, why are we advertising an increase? Well, as I stated earlier, if there's an improvement in local property values, even if we leave the millage rate the same, it can result in an indirect tax increase because we're applying that rate to a higher value. And Georgia's Taxpayers Bill of Rights requires us to hold public hearings if we don't go with the rollback rate. So the rollback rate is a millage rate that offsets the increase in the value of the property, it makes it revenue neutral. So because we're proposing maintaining the 19.6 millage rate, that's higher than the calculated rollback rate of 19.55. Again, that's the rate that makes it revenue neutral. So how does that impact me as a homeowner if we maintain the same millage rate instead of going with the rollback rate? So if your home has a fair market value, remember you said $250,000 again, remember you only pay 40% of that. Pay tax on 40% of that, and with the $10,000 home state exemption, your tax will be $1,764 at 19.6. The rollback rate though shows that you will pay $4.50 less. It will be $1,759.50. So if your home is valued at $250,000 and we set the millage rate at the 19.6, that's $4.50 more than you would pay if it was at the 19.55, the rollback rate, which is considered revenue neutral. So what if my home value increases, like the home that we saw earlier, at the same millage rate? So say last year was $250,000, you pay the $1,764 at the 19.6 millage rate. Say it increased by $10,000. So now your assessed value, the 40% is $104,000 minus the $10,000. And that would be $1,842 that's generated for the students, for student learning. That would be a $78 increase if your property value is increased for the year. $6.53 per month if you're paying a mortgage. How does that impact the district? Adopting this existing millage rate provides funding to support increasing academic achievement, utilizing strong academic programs for our students, cultivating the school safety culture, promoting a positive working environment, supporting the superintendent's know their needs for e-effect initiative, and supporting our athletic and band programs. This slide is just a summary of our budget for this year. For FY26, we have a projected enrollment of 51,000 students. Our total general fund revenues, which is our tax revenue as well as our state dollars, is $698.7 million. However, our total expenditures is $726.8 million, so we're using some of our fund balance or our reserves. And you can see on this, the pictures that I have here, how we're spending this investment. 79% of that is going to teaching and learning, directly impacting the student learning environment. We have the 10%, I believe, is going to maintenance, safety, and security. And then we have 6% for student transportation and support services when we look at it from functional services provided. And if you look at it by category, as with most entities, salaries and benefits is the largest portion of any budget in any organization. So ours is at 88%, with purchase professional services being at 3%, and then material supplies and services at 10%. And so when you look at that, the total of $726.8 million investment in the students, that's $14,236 per student. So summarizing, our current millage rate is 19.6 mils. We're proposing to leave it at 19.6 mils. So we're not going to increase the rate, but applying the same millage rate to our higher assessed property value will result in a property tax increase, which is again why we have to advertise it as a tax increase per state law. Again, our property taxes are an investment in the community's future through our students. This additional revenue will support investing in the students in our community by providing funding to support our strong academic programs, supporting our safety and security initiatives for our students and staff, supporting our athletic and band programs, and providing compensation enhancements for our teachers. Mr. Chair, that's all I have this morning. So I will turn this back over to you. Because we're going to need it for public comment, so we don't want to go back and forth.
Did you mention, Ms. Gibbons, that a couple of years ago, we lowered the millage rate for the first time in about 13, 14 years?
Ms. I did mention that we lowered it 2 years ago. Yeah.
Good morning again. It's now time for public participation. I'm going to read a disclaimer here, and then I will start calling names, and then you can come up to that podium, and you have 3 minutes for your presentation. The Clayton County Board of Education welcomes public participation and will hear any interested individuals pursuant to the guidelines outlined in policy BCBI. Members of the public will not be allowed to discuss individual personnel issues or confidential student matters. Speakers must identify themselves and topics before speaking. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak, and time may not be yielded from one speaker to another. Board members will not respond to comments from the speakers. The chairman may respond to appropriate issues requiring possible action by the board. Abuse of language and/or personal attacks will not be permitted. My first person is Ms. Odell McClain. Good morning.
Good morning. I just have kind of a question, and thank you very much for this. As we were going through the slide, the example that was on page 7, the percent of change in exemption, I would just like to have a little bit more information about that. She had mentioned that has been decreasing. Again, I'm getting ready to turn 65 myself. My husband will be 65 in a couple of months, so we are looking forward to the exemption. So I just wanted to understand, is it that our population here in Clayton County is the older population that own homes, and the newer houses that are being built are being rented more so versus owned, because if the exemption rate is going higher, then we have more older population. So I just kind of want to understand a bit more about that. And the next question I have, you did explain to me about why the public hearing, and who sets I know the builders probably are building, but who determines how we're setting the prices of the home? Because I don't see a lot of affordable homes. I do have two myself, and one that I'm renting to my daughter. But again, if it wasn't for that, she really would not be able to afford the prices of homes. So how do we kind of assess to determine what is affordable houses for our residents here in Clayton County?
Great questions, Ms. McClain. I'm going to let Ms. Bivens address those 2 questions first before calling someone else.
So the first question was regarding the percent changes in exemptions. The exemptions have increased over the past few years, which means more people are getting exemptions, whether it's through seniors or we have more people that are homeowners now rather than renting, and they're qualifying for the homestead exemption. So those are a couple of things that can initiate the exemptions increase. Okay? And then the last one was who determines who sets home prices. Definitely not the Board of Ed, nor the county. I think the market drives the prices. If you recall, you can see on them where the increases went up, I think 12, hold on, let me go back to that slide. Where it went up, well, 10 and 18%, that was in 24 and 23, when home values went through, home sales were extremely high. So that helped, that contributes to the assessed value. So when the tax assessor goes out to look at the assessed value of your home, they have to look at the market, they set the fair market value price, and that's based on the market in your area. And if you recall back during that time, a lot of investors were purchasing homes here in the county, and that drove prices up. And so there's an artificial increase in home prices because investors were paying top prices for homes. So it made all our home values go up, including, I used mine back in 2014 when I purchased my home. By 2024, 2023, 2023, 2024, yeah, it had doubled in price because of the sales price in my area. So that's the market actually determines the selling price. Okay. You're welcome.
Ms. Bivens, Ms. Kelly Guzman. Ms. Guzman? Krista Lasher. Yeah, you know. Scott Lasher.
to check and see what the rate range was about. First, let me say I'm always back. I want the kids to have education, but I don't want to pay for it all myself. Okay? Well, there's a lot of questions I had, and with the cell sheet that you put up there, you're talking 19.6, kept saying your pie chart, you said 19.6 millage rate to 19.6 rate, like you're not increasing. Well, but it was 19.5. We didn't have any comparison of how much money income to the school district will be different from that amount of money change. It showed 19.6 to 19.6. It didn't show 19.5 to 19.6. Also, the county board of tax assessors has increased my property tax every year for the last 10 years in their wrong rate, which does multiply times 19.6, so a lot more money comes into you. I understand it's all about money, but you know, the county seems to have a lot of money to build stuff. They seem to be throwing money around everywhere. Look, there's a new building going on. My house isn't getting anywhere, but they want a lot more money. So that's what I'm here to check on is what, you know, everybody wants more money. But when my property taxes go up, you are getting more money because your millage rate is at 19.5, 19.6. And everybody adds a little bit on. The other thing is, in the county, we've always had quite a few, like we said, it's the lowest cost county in the state. But they're going to apartment complexes every 5 feet. There's a lot of kids there that need a lot of education. But there's only a couple of little houses over here paying for it. And as the county gets older, the people that own houses, like I said, that education money goes away. So I'd like more explanation of that, and what kind of money comes from, say, commercial properties and, say, an apartment complex that's, the people inside it don't pay, the apartment complex, obviously somebody pays something, what kind of money comes from that towards the county, towards the school? And that kind of is really unclear. But that was really my question, and I understand what you're saying, 19.6 back to 19.6 from the rollback, well, so you're increasing it back. Okay, that's the bottom line, not my pocket dollars. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to see, what you're doing. You know, going out the window, we're going to build a bunch of fancy new shiny things, we're going to do good education, we're going to worry about the kids, you know. And I'm always back to kids, but I don't want to be wasted. So that's my question and comment. And that's what thank you.
Mr. Lasher, thank you so much, and your concerns are all of our concerns. I hope you don't mind this, Dr. Smith, but I'm going to call my last person, and if you would close it up for me, because I know that some of the, right. Okay, so I got one more person, which is Miss Sandra Bayless. I didn't hear you. Say it again. Yeah, okay, he wrapped it up for you. All right, so we'll have the superintendent close up this meeting by giving us a summary of what Mr. Lasher was asking about. Where's this money going and what is it doing for our children? He'll address that, and then after that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, staff, community members, thank y'all for coming out. Let me just appreciate your comments and your remarks. I appreciate your questions, man, they're very valid. I appreciate y'all supporting the school system and what we're trying to get done, and we're absolutely improving. All of our data speaks to the school system improving academically. Discipline numbers are down, more students are coming to school, staff members' attendance is up, our reputation is blossoming more than it ever has before. We're building some incredible new things and adding new programs for our students, even at the elementary level, because we want to keep kids busy. And there's a difference now between your property taxes and SPLOST sales tax. SPLOST sales tax is what we build stuff. All of the new buildings that you see relative to schools and all of that doesn't come from your property taxes. It comes from the penny sales tax that the community was so gracious to approve and have continued to improve. So that's separate. The values, you know, when the values were going skyrocketing, the state government stepped in and they tried to create a way in which it could be mediated by maxing out the maximum property taxes based on the inflation rate. So everybody's in a panic about, oh, the values are soaring. Where as you can see, last year, 1 year ago, our values were 12%. This current year, it's cooled down to 1%. However, they put all of these other things in place, I think unnecessarily, but because Clayton has some of the lowest property values in the metropolitan Atlanta area, which is really not a good thing, except when it comes time to pay taxes, it's a great thing. But when it comes time to be able to sell your home, more equity in your home, those values increase heavily there. But the backside of that is you pay more taxes. Now, as a school system, we don't control the values. And what we wanted to signal to the community 2 years ago is that we're looking out for your best interest. So for the first time, I believe in 13 or 14 years, we lowered the millage rate from 20 to 19.6. And if we would have kept it there, we could have been receiving more money, but we wanted to signal to the community that we're looking out and we got your taxes in mind as we make decisions. That's a good faith to the community. And as you can see, with the values going up, in order to make that neutral where you didn't have to pay any increases to the school system, we have to either accept the rollback rate, which is 19.5, or keep it at 19.6. We elected to keep it at 19.6 because when we lose a whole meal, that's a lot of millions of dollars, but $12 million. And so we wanted to show to you what that really means to you relative to school taxes. For a $250,000 house, it comes to $4 and something annually, which is less than $1 per month that you see an increase in order to continue to support what I hope y'all consider responsible actions on behalf of the school system. Now, we in county government, school system, and when you see a lot of stuff being built, that comes out of the penny sales tax, and we need it for our students. We have the oldest. Anybody here graduated from one of our Clayton County schools? Any member? But anyway, the oldest infrastructure anybody in the metro Atlanta area. It's embarrassing in a lot of cases. We've never elected to use bonds in this county as a school system, and you can debate how smart or wise or unwise that was, but meanwhile, all the other school systems around the metro Atlanta area were utilizing bonds as a way in order to continue to have a modern school system relative to infrastructure for their students. We didn't do none of that. But thank God the community has come around and the board has saw the wisdom of using bonds. So now we're beginning to build all this stuff because when we pass a 5-year spots, we can collect that money up front with bonds and go ahead and start building right away instead of trying to only build with however much we collect per month. So that's why you're seeing our school system being updated, but it has absolutely nothing to do with your property taxes. So I hope I kind of explained. If there's something more specific, I'll be more than happy. Yes, ma'am. It's what? By what? Uh-huh. Right, I thought you said 12. 2. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So basically, if you can do the math, if you got a $250 house, we're asking you to pay $4.50 extra a year. Or we could have said, we'll go with the rollback rate and lost millions to help continue to do. And so we're hoping that the community sees a good balance between us trying to be responsible for continuing to progress the school system, but looking out for the property tax people. So that's one of the reasons why we put a lot of emphasis on the sales tax, not the property tax to get things done. Because we ask you to start using sales tax, property tax money to build things, or your bill go through the roof. And that's what we don't want to happen. So, anybody got any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
All the other items, one item on the tax property. So the taxes won't be 1759, it's going to be more like 3 grand, right?
Come on.
The bottom line for property at $250,000 valuation. It's
Uh,
only telling us for the school part.
That's the
Check
school.
out for the fire.
Yeah.
Check out for the fire.
Yeah, this is just the school. Yeah, you're right. This is the school.
So
Yeah.
basically our taxes are going up still. So this 1759 is just in addition to the other stuff that's going to be on tax. When you get that bill, it's going to be more.
And, yeah, and we don't want you to fuss it up about what they do. We just try to explain to you about what we're doing. Well, I hope you don't fuss nobody, but it's the county folks. No, this is school system only. Yes, ma'am.
School system is increasing our property taxes by 91.5%. Or is that overall? I'm sorry. I heard it.
If you could give the mic to Ms. Bivens and let her summarize exactly what you said, and then we can.
If somebody didn't know the difference and looked at this.
They don't think it's us.
Going up,
Right, yeah.
going up, I'm taking that bill, 3,000 and not 1759.
Yeah.
And you gonna have.
Ms. Bivens, if you could summarize that up, and then we can
Sure.
go.
So is there a scenario where a person home with 250 going from 1,700 to 3,000? Even with all taxes being levied?
I don't have that information. It's actually on your tax assessment bill that you get. It has all of it on there.
Last year, my property was valued at close to this, the example you used. With school taxes being less than this, I was paying $2,700 up plus on my property taxes. So now that this school tax is going up almost, what, $600 per home?
So if your property values did not increase, your property taxes should remain the same. If your property values went down, it should go down because we're leaving it at 19.6.
Right, it's going, but this is in addition to.
So the county, so I think you're referencing the county. So if your total tax bill is comprised of the school district, the county, and if you live in the city limits, the city. Those are 3 separate government entities. Each one sets their own millage rate. They set their own property taxes. This hearing, each one has to have a hearing if it's considered a tax increase, right? This one is specific to the school district. The county is having theirs, I don't know what date, I didn't look. And then in the cities will be having the same thing. And each hearing is to speak specifically to that particular government entity's part of your tax bill, right?
But however, wherever the increase goes, let's say 1,700 to 2,700, of that, this year, to a home that's worth 250,000, only
$4.50.
annually is.
That's minimized with the.
Now, I don't know,
$4.
now, is the government, is the county or the city increasing it by hundreds of dollars more than what we are?
I don't remember what the county is doing. I saw that they're having their public hearing. Theirs considered a tax increase. It's a lot more than ours. I don't even remember what the percentage is. I know the city of Jonesboro is increasing their millage rate by 90-something%, I think.
91.5.
Yeah, that's the city of Jonesboro, but we can't control that.
I get what you're saying. That actually is not.
Right, but I mean, if everybody's increasing it, the bottom line, our bills are, keep minimizing it by saying $4, it's $1,700. Right, I understand that, but I'm just saying, instead of minimizing, until, okay, paying $1,700 for this, everybody else is going to increase it too, so if I'm paying $2,700 and everybody's increasing $200, my bill is going
I'm
$4,000
just showing.
instead of $2,700, which is double in the last couple of years, which makes no sense at all.
But that's,
I understand that. I mean,
We
I'm saying,
understand.
it's just deceptive to say that.
we're looking out for,
But it's-
inclusive.
Yeah, we can only,
And then for somebody that don't have kids in school and fall short of the exemption, the school tax exemption, is, you know, I'm not quite to the age where I can take the exemption, so I'm still paying for kids that I don't have. And my grandkids don't go to school.
yes, ma'am. You would have to talk to, Ms. Danielle Smith, our tax commissioner, about, to my knowledge, that is not true. Once you turn 65, you get an exemption, and I know that's not true, because I have a gentleman that said, well, he's retired, so they don't count. But one of our board members, she's retired from the district, but she still works here as a board, she gets an income, she still is exempt from school taxes. So when you turn 65, you're exempt from school taxes if you go down to the tax commissioner's office and apply for the exemption, regardless of whether you're working or not. Okay?
All right, so quite a few people have other meetings that they have to go to, so I'm gonna close this meeting and I'll still be here if there's any.
Yeah, one more question.
All right, go for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me do this, Dr. Smith. I'm not gonna cut you off. The meeting is adjourned. Anybody that wants to leave can leave. And Dr. Smith will stick around so that he can answer individual questions after this meeting. So I thank everybody for coming. Our next meeting is going to be at 6 p.m. this evening. Thank you so much for participating in our meeting this morning.
Can I say
Thank
one
you
more
so
thing?
much.
One more thing.
You can say whatever you want to say.